man going round taking names. He decides who to free and who to blame. Everybody won't be treated all the same. There'll be a golden ladder reaching down when the man comes around. This is the Community Solutions Podcast. Jason Bradley, Andrew Richter from deep in the bowels of our underground lair, where we're busting up lies like it's a migrant caravan headed for the Mexican border. How you doing?
I'd love to bust that up.
It did. It did. Shortly after Trump was elected, it started to dissipate, and just got reassurances from the Mexican president that she will keep any further attempts of migrants coming
Hidalgo
through.
or whatever. I don't know what her name is. Doesn't matter. Well, I mean,
So
that's obviously there's a lesson to be learned there.
yeah.
I want to know who's funding this stuff. I mean, I want to know.
Well, we know who's funding this stuff. A bunch of
Well,
UN NGOs.
or drug people. I mean, they
Well,
run the Mexican
that too.
government. So
They're helping with getting people to and across the border. A lot of the organization and the, if you want to say, marketing, hey, come to America, we're open. That's coming through NGOs. Once they cross the border, the NGOs are taking care of them and getting them settled into the United States.
Huh.
So it's both.
why don't they do that in like some African country or something? Why do they do that here?
Well, I don't know. Would you want to be a migrant to like I don't. I'm
No,
gonna get
but
in
I don't
trouble
want
if
them
I
here
name a
either.
country. Sudan, Djibouti.
It's just the whole continent's out of control. But look, this globalist stuff. I mean, this is why I can't understand how people prioritize the rest of the world over the United States.
Yeah.
Who live here? I just can't understand that mentality. And I don't know that I had it at one time. I never thought I did, but the constitutional rights apply to a caravan of people in another country. I mean, Jay, what even, by the way,
Yeah.
okay, I think I know the song. I think that's a
Okay.
Johnny Cash song.
Yes, the
Okay.
man comes around.
All right. So I'm one for November of 2024. But the thing is, even becoming a U.S. citizen, citizenship is like not even a big deal anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, something that was so cherished and earned by people. It took years to get.
Yeah.
And it still does in a lot of cases. But
Absolutely.
it's why this notion of what you want to call amnesty or just letting anybody come here, God, that mentality, I don't know how to get rid of it. I really don't. Because you've got the corporations supporting it. You've got all the elites supporting it because, of course, they don't live in their neighborhood.
Yeah.
And all the big money supporting it. It's really a challenge.
Yeah.
All against the will of the people.
Yeah.
You look any poll, 70, 80, the media's trying already. The mass deportations, the separation of the children. It's having no effect. The public's hearing none of it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're going to be cheered, these deportations. You want to keep illegal alien criminals here? I mean, it's insane. Just insane.
Yeah. I don't understand it.
Speaking of insane, Jay, we were involved in a little conundrum recently that we're going to share
Yeah. Why not?
with the listening audience, and you'll find this. An old friend, you call it an old friend of the show, decided to
Is that friend in quotes, right? It's,
in air quotes.
Right. Yeah, he's
Guy who doesn't like you too much.
no, he
I
didn't.
don't think he
doesn't
likes
like me.
me.
At
I
all.
don't know why. I've always spoken so highly of him.
Is that so?
What happened, Jay? Why don't you give a synopsis here of
All right. Well,
what we've been...
we don't talk a whole lot about our how we make the sausage as far as like the strategy part of our business, and we like to make sure that we give every advantage to the people that we work with. Now, I wasn't working with you and me. We had people we were working with this year, but none of them were here in Crystal. We just for a while. I mean, it's just either been kind of who we've had or who we haven't had. We haven't really been involved in Crystal elections for one reason or another. But
yeah, I would say it's in the last 7-8 years since I moved, I haven't been on top of much.
Yeah. And I still live in the city, so it's, for me, it is something like a passion project for me, but at the same time, you the right things have to come together, anyone that we work with, we want to make sure that they are ready to dive in head first and work the plan that we give them and so on and so forth. Anyways, we have had many battles over the years, you and me, with one that, and you can find out on our website. There's a link to our old articles that we used to publish, and if you type into the search bar on that old archive, Johnny B, it would come up with many, 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 many articles.
The infamous one of mine that got me kicked off the planning commission.
Yeah, see, he likes you as much as he likes me.
Hey, I still want somebody to tell me what I said that was wrong. Maybe they don't like how I said it.
Yeah.
But I come back to, I was pretty harsh.
Yeah.
But, what I said was the truth.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Well, we had talked, what was it, maybe 6 weeks ago or something? I'm just guessing. I went back to a Crystal City Council meeting and told them what I thought about light rail, and hey, you have a chance to stand up to Hennepin County and the Met Council here, and they went ahead with it anyways because they got bought off by Hennepin County.
Sure.
And John Budashevsky being one of those. Don't even try to figure out how to spell that.
We'll just call him Budweiser.
Johnny B. I don't know if I talked a whole lot on the podcast about how, maybe I did, but I generally don't get into that personal stuff, but like just kind of how he was looking at me as he voted for this thing and the smile on his face. And I'm a Christian man. I'm a peace-loving man, but he crossed the line. He relished in the fact that light rail is going to be so close to where I live. He couldn't wait to vote for it. And he looked directly at me as he did it, and he smiled. Oh. So.
Sure he wasn't late for a pedicure or something? He's trying to get out of there? Or what?
I don't know. So, I created an independent expenditure lit piece. And I handed it out myself. John won his race by 1 vote. Now, I'm not going to elaborate or guess on why that happened, but, because he pushed me, I went out and did what I did, and I'm sure that had an impact on that, on that race. It was probably too late in the cycle. Again, we weren't hired by anybody in Crystal, so we weren't involved in making sure that things went the way we would normally run a race.
Sure.
But we don't do this. I mean, we kind of stay out of the fray that way. Once upon a time, we had done some independent expenditure work, and it just about killed us, I think, because you and I walked 3/4 of the city.
Yeah, my plantar fasciitis was as bad as it was when I worked for Tom Emmer. I remember when I worked for Emmer 6 months, it took me to completely get rid of it.
Yes.
It was pretty bad, though, at that time, too.
Ugh.
And I remember part of the time I was trying to conceal my identity.
Yeah.
Just because I didn't want the lit that we had to be about me.
Right.
I knew that would be an issue. Mm-hmm. It was probably an issue for you too. So it was kind of like, yeah, I'm just, you know, I did it at weird times. I took days off and did it just because I didn't want to be seen as the person driving it, and then they'd make me the issue instead of what we were trying to. I had no power.
Right.
So, you know, other than behind the scenes.
Yeah. But this is only the second time we've ever done anything like this. I mean, I'll just be open and honest about that. We've only ever done this twice, that year and now this year. So we wrote up this lit piece about John Budaszewski and how he marched with he marched with a group of radicals against the Crystal Police. There was a shooting at Bassett Creek Park, and
it was a number of years ago.
It was a number of years ago, yeah. But before any of the facts came out, he marched against the police. Now, I have a bunch of things I can say about that. Like, they worked their way into New Hope before they realized that they weren't in the right place anymore.
Yeah, I think they ended up in Wayzata or something.
But anyways, the facts came out later that the police were all cleared of that, and there wasn't anything that they did wrong because this guy had what appeared to be a gun, and he wouldn't put it down, and there were mental issues, and there was a long litany of prior mental issues, and so the police handled it judiciously. But yet John never apologized for that. John never changed his position on what happened that day.
Well, and I would argue, I would even take it a step further, that he never explained his actions.
Yeah.
He never took the time to say why he did A or why he did B.
Right.
There was no accountability for it. And to have a sitting councilman, march.
Yeah.
These groups wanted these police officers, like, charged with murder.
Yes.
I mean,
yeah.
Again, they have a right to their opinion, but you don't have to join them.
Right.
And he chose to, and then never denied it, never denied that was him. You know, it wasn't a cheap fake. We didn't Photoshop him on something. Or,
it didn't even come from our website. I mean, it has the other website.
It was an independent. We didn't take the photo.
No.
And so, it's just kind of silly. And I think he should be made to explain it. And so...
but he won't, just like anything else. He's been making trouble on the council for years. He recently tried to get our friend Jeff Kolb kicked off of the fireboard, accused him of siding with New Hope, and
accused Kolb of disagreeing with him.
Right.
Never mind the fact that the city councils actually oversee the fireboard. He's actually above Kolb. So, I mean, what are you going to do? Get rid of everybody who doesn't agree with you? I mean, that's just... but again... This is a tactic that we've seen, is to silence opposition, get rid of anybody, so you don't have to listen to anyone else. That's just the way that some operate now.
Right. So, fast forward to this point in time. Got an email 3 days ago now from the Minnesota Office of Administrative Hearings, and John... filed a complaint against us for...
Oh, shame. Everybody knows your name.
Here's the complaint. The enclosed fair campaign practices complaint was filed with the Office of Administrative Hearings on November 21st, 2024. The complaint alleges your organization had produced literature for distribution, but has not provided a contribution or expenditure report in relation to the November 5th, 2024 election of Crystal Council Member Ward 3, that being Johnny B. The complaint has been assigned for review to Administrative Law Judge, I will leave his name out of it. Within 3 business days, the Administrative Law Judge will make a preliminary determination of whether the complaint constitutes a prima
facie case.
Prima facie violation of Minnesota statutes 211A, .01 through .14, 211B, .01 through .37. And,
by the way, can I just say something too? I want to just tell the audience something, and maybe you're going to get to this, Jay.
Probably.
The statute that you're referring to requires a certain dollar amount to be spent. Then it has to be reported.
Yes.
And that we never came close to that dollar amount.
Yeah.
Just want everybody to know that you are not required to do this unless you spend X amount of money. It's kind of like when you get a donor to a campaign, they have to spend $100, or you don't have to take down their name.
Right.
It's considered small donations, or there's other things like donations in kind,
right?
Which is a little inside baseball, but just go ahead. You were probably going to say that, but I just wanted to.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
So, prima facie means that the facts, if the facts alleged are later proven as true, are sufficient to show a statutory violation. So
basically, the judge is acting as a grand jury,
right?
Saying, is there a case here or isn't there?
Right, and if there's not, the complaint will be dismissed. And if so, then the matter will be set for a hearing, and you will be provided an opportunity to submit a response. So that's what happened. He filed that. So and go ahead.
Went in front of Judge Wabner here, and what was the result of Judge Ed Koch here?
Well, hold
joking.
On. So here's the nature of the complaint. Here's what it said. He has to present facts that are sufficient enough to show a violation in his complaint. Here's what he says. Community Solutions Minnesota is an organization that doesn't appear to have filed entity/committee documents or a listing of contacts and or officers. This entity has produced literature for distribution but hasn't provided notification to the City of Crystal, like we have to, or a contribution/expenditure report to the City of Crystal as required by city ordinance. Not for what we did. Fair campaign reporting requires...
We're not a candidate.
Right. Requires individuals and or entities, committees involved in the campaign process to provide funding reports and donor information during the campaign season. Well, we're not a PAC, so that's different. This action appears covert, with the intent to influence the election without responsibility. Likewise, this entity has used social media/YouTube radio to influence political preferences, so therefore its influence would warrant a larger investigation to determine if it had a larger influence during the political season without the responsibility of proper reporting.
So wait a minute. You're telling me that anybody who goes on YouTube and tries to influence an election has to submit a report? Well, by the way, what stops him from using that? Yeah. He can use social media.
Sure he can.
He can use anything he wants to. It's not my fault your lazy ass doesn't do any of that. Wait, what? You're telling me a citizen can't go out and give an opinion on a campaign?
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what? I'm going to have to maybe go through some of this, because he did sign an oath under penalty of perjury that he swore or affirmed that the statements he made in this complaint were true and correct to the best of his knowledge.
Okay, but here's the prima facie case.
Yeah.
He has no proof of what we spent.
Right.
So how can he make a case when he has no idea what we spent? Let me tell you something. I want to ask Mr. Budashevsky something. We've been doing this kind of crap for years. You think I've never called the state and asked them to clarify this stuff?
Only many times.
You think I've never called, done my research? I've run as a candidate. I've gotten the same booklet he's gotten.
Yep.
You and I have advised candidates for 20 years now.
Absolutely.
You really think we're going to advise them to break the law? You know damn well, Jay, as much as anybody.
Yeah.
What a fine could be levied. You don't want the reputation as somebody who's got sloppy records or.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something that we totally preach against.
Absolutely.
So the idea that we wouldn't do our homework, I'm actually disappointed he thinks we wouldn't do that.
Right. Well, as we know, John
Continue
lies.
to disappoint me.
John lies, and we know that he lies. And he actually I don't know, this is where I have to look into this, because as I read the reply, there are some things in there that he might get to perjure himself a little bit. We'll have to see.
Should we file another complaint?
I don't know. So here is the reply from the judge to both John and myself. Dear parties, enclosed and served upon you, please find that the order finding no prima facie violation and dismissing complaint in the above titled manner, the Office of Administrative Hearings file in this matter is now closed. And it took all of 1 day to get it back. Set up to 3, it took 1. That's how little standing he had.
That's some government efficiency that Vivek and Elon ought to look into.
Yeah. Yes. Let me read. So the complaint against Community Solutions Minnesota is dismissed. And I'm going to read something that from the decision that he put in here that I think is very telling. To assert a prima facie violation of the Fair Campaign Practices Act, the complaint must allege sufficient facts to show forth a prima facie case that entitles a party to a later hearing. The party must either submit evidence or allege facts that, if accepted as true, would be sufficient to prove a violation of Minnesota statutes. So this he doesn't even have to provide evidence. He just have to allege facts that, if accepted as true, would be sufficient. I mean, think about that. He doesn't even have to provide evidence. Just allege facts that, if accepted as true, would be sufficient. And he couldn't even do that.
Poor guy.
Yes. So, okay. So let me get down into, here's what the statute says. The statutes say. So it requires candidates and political committees that receive or disperse more than $750 in a calendar year to submit periodic reports on those receipts and expenditures. Among the details that must be reported are the total number of contributions and disbursements for the period of the last previous reports to 5 days before the current report is due. Well, it doesn't work out like that. Sorry. We $750, John. $750. Yet, Mr. Bruszewski's final financial reporting claim fails because he has not alleged sufficient facts to maintain that the literature produced for distribution required at least $750 to develop and circulate. Similarly, there is nothing in the complaint that would lead one to believe that postings to YouTube or social media sites, absent some other facts, would pierce the minimum expenditure threshold and thus oblige disclosures. Indeed, the Fair Campaign Practices Act assumes that some campaign material that is circulated will not require the speaker to incur any costs at all, like making a YouTube video or a podcast. We sit here with a machine that we record into, and I edit the podcasts personally on my time for free, and I put them onto YouTube for free. I put them onto this is ridiculous. I mean,
let's just say we didn't. Why would we be required to Let's just say you and I were paid $1 million by somebody to talk of a podcast about John Budashevsky.
Which we haven't done.
Why would that require us to disclose anything financial?
Which we haven't done. Even if we made a podcast called John Budashevsky is Wrong and put it out on a weekly basis.
I make a good documentary.
So the minimum cost thresholds in the statute form an important constitutional boundary. They leave some space for unregulated anonymous speech, as the U.S. Supreme Court explained in McIntyre versus Ohio Elections Committee. Under our Constitution, anonymous pamphleteering is not a pernicious, fraudulent practice, but an honorable tradition of advocacy and dissent. I like being honorable. That's good. Anonymity is a shield from the tyranny of the majority. Oh, anonymity is a shield from the tyranny of the majority, or the tyranny of one John Budashevsky. It thus exemplifies the purpose behind the Bill of Rights and of the First Amendment in particular, to protect unpopular individuals from retaliation and their ideas from suppression at the hand of an intolerant society. The right to remain anonymous may be abused when it shields fraudulent conduct. But political speech, by its nature, will sometimes have unpalatable consequences, and in general, our society accords greater weight to the value of free speech than to the dangers of its misuse. In Minnesota, the boundary line on anonymous speech is $750 worth of expenditures. But you know what? We aren't anonymous. So even if we were, we would get those protections. But we're not even afraid to put our names on every podcast. We put the name of our organization right on the paper, the flyer that went out.
Which is also required.
But yeah, so for all of these reasons, but you can even make up some goofy group if you're not spending $750.
Yeah, the crystal group that cares.
Like Harbor Seals for a better Ely, Minnesota. It doesn't matter. But we actually used our real information because John needs to know that this is for real. What he did is offensive. What he did, in my eyes, disqualifies him from holding office in this town. But for all these reasons, the administrative law judge concludes that the complaint does not state a prima facie claim for violations of the Fair Campaign Practices Act and is dismissed.
Woo!
Dismissed.
Kiss my ass. I say that out loud?
Yeah.
Not the judge.
No. But here's the thing. Even after the judge dismissed this, is that enough for John? No, it's not. And I don't know if he meant to reply to all, but he did.
It's funny that he sent this to you.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I don't think he...
The lawyer sent this to him and me, and he replied to all. And he says, thank you, but what the Honorable Lippman assumes is... I'm not making fun of the judge. I'm saying, isn't there I don't know, the Honorable Judge Lippman, wouldn't you...
Maybe.
Assumes that Community Solutions Minnesota produced campaign literature for the value of less than $750, whereas there isn't any reporting anywhere supporting that claim. Well...
Aren't we innocent until proven guilty?
Yeah. I, as a candidate, have to attest that I've spent less or more than $750, and it's documented and on file with the city clerk. That's because you're a candidate. Oh,
hasn't he read that pamphlet in 20 years?
Right. Now, to send out an independent expenditure, you have to have an address. And you have to put that address on. See, we've looked at the law. We know what the law is. Mm-hmm. And so I personally, for $18 and change, rented out a box in Bloomington, Minnesota, so that there was a mailing address for anything to go to.
And John knows damn well we're not based in Bloomington.
So why is an organization based in Bloomington working in Crystal? He's a liar. He's been at my door. Well, he brought my name up in a public debate.
I would take it a step further than that.
Yes.
I mean, what does that mean? I can only influence elections that are in my city?
Right. We all know that's not the truth.
I mean, Mr. Budashevsky has publicly endorsed candidates for office in other places.
Yeah.
I've seen him talk about it.
You
Whether
know,
it's for county, for state,
Yeah.
he's endorsed school board referendums.
You know, in fact, and I could show you. I don't think I threw it out yet. It was a terrible campaign literature. We would never have told somebody to do this because it was like fold out multi-pages. It was, nobody would have read
You don't
it.
want something to read on the toilet.
Anyways, in there, he is seen pictured with and endorsing this far left Green Party endorsed mayor running in Crystal. So what's
Sure.
that worth then, John? Did you file paperwork for that? So why is an organization based in Bloomington working in Crystal? Well, we're not in Bloomington. Is it active in other cities? Are there additional expenses that need to be reported? This is the basis of my complaint. Please advise. It was dismissed, John.
Well, maybe he's asking for this person's opinion on the law, but I mean, ultimately, whether we're working in other cities or not has nothing to do with him.
Yeah.
First off, the answer is yes, but what we're doing, we're following the rules that are laid out.
Yep.
Even following the ones I don't agree with.
Yeah.
Look, I think that I don't know what the motive is. The only thing I could think of is this is an intimidation tactic.
Oh, that's all it is.
You know, it's to try to get us to shut up. I'll go file a
Yep.
complaint. We'll get the state up your ass.
But we're not going to shut up. That's not. He should know better. We have appeared before them multiple times. We have gone toe to toe with the old mayor of Crystal, Renee Bowman. We didn't
I'm
back
surprised
down.
never filed a complaint against us either.
Not because of money we spent, because we didn't do any of that with her. But
No, we didn't. Not in. Yeah, I'll just keep my mouth shut there. I don't know what the statute of limitations.
But here's the thing. This is supposed to have a chilling effect. That's the point. If you can't censor the press, shut the media up, this is no different than Joe Biden working with Facebook and Twitter to shut down dissent.
Yeah.
This is what this is. You are coming to a member of the media and you are telling them that they cannot express their opinion.
Well, and again, I don't. To me, I consider us. I consider us citizens, not the media.
Yeah, we're both. We run a podcast.
Yeah, I mean, we could. I don't know what the law would say. Public figures, I think we qualify as public figures, which means we lose a lot of our rights. Bum on the street can sue somebody. You and I
but
can't.
we do not lose our First Amendment right.
No, and I think, again, one of the things that you have to understand about running for office is that it comes with the territory, that you're going to passionately believe in some things that other people are not. You're going to have to learn how to handle that, navigate that. And if you're, not capable of doing that, and I understand it, not everybody is. It's not easy to get criticized all the time.
Yeah.
We've been there. I've been there a lot.
Yeah.
And then, find something else in this business to do. Find something else that feeds your passion. But one thing about public service, and here's the other thing about service, is you represent everybody.
Yeah.
Not just the people who voted for you.
Exactly.
So you have an obligation that goes beyond, the winning an election by one vote. So, I mean, to me, again, I go back to, I am not scared to debate anybody.
No.
I'm not scared of different. In fact, I think we need it. I think competition makes everybody better. People are talking right now about, like the Democratic Party nationally being in disarray and leaderless and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
You know what? They're going to come out of it. And I hope they do, because we need a vibrant system. A strong Democratic Party will make the Republican Party stronger.
Yeah.
A strong third party would make both parties stronger and enhance the debate. And so, to me, competition is something we should embrace and it makes everybody work harder.
Right.
So I welcome voices, whether they agree with me or not. I might disagree with them vehemently.
Yeah.
I may get animated in doing so. But if I try to shut up people who disagree with me, Jay, I'm no better than they are.
Right.
And it ain't going to happen around here.
Nope. We have never called for somebody to be silenced, and we won't.
But it's become the cancel culture. It's
Yeah.
become, if you can't beat them, censor them.
Yep.
And so if Mr. Budashevsky thinks we're going to go away because of his little third grade complaint here, he's sorely mistaken.
Well, censorship really is just the haven of cowards. I mean, that's really what it is. I don't have the ability to meet you on the field of ideas, so I'm just going to shut you down. You know?
I know. I shouldn't laugh. It's just, of all the things, that 23 years of this business, I mean, nothing surprises me. And I'm surprised this hasn't happened before, Jay. I'm surprised that...
Well, like I say, this is only the second time we've ever done anything like this.
This specific, yes. I mean, we've participated in other things, but not with the Community Solutions label on them.
No.
So, yeah.
Just as citizens we have. I mean, we've spent many years working for the Republican Party and going door to door and handing out things or making phone calls or
working behind the scenes with other people.
And we've got, our blog that goes back, I don't know, does it go all the way back to 2008? I don't remember when we started actually writing the blog.
10, 11,
something like that. Yeah. And so we were a lot more heavy into writing just about Crystal in those early years. But, that's not, I don't even remember, other than the remarks I made recently about that city council meeting I went to. We didn't even, as far as I remember, bring up that race that he's in, other than maybe we said he shouldn't win. But
we might have mentioned it, but we didn't actively.
But again, this is something we do for free, this podcast, and it's not something we pay for. We don't pay anyone to edit it.
Well, and again, as far as I'm concerned,
it's the media.
Budashevsky's not entitled to know that stuff. That's stuff we don't have to say.
Yeah.
We can say it anyway. I don't care. But it's...
when you stand on the truth, I mean...
But the idea that creating a YouTube channel or creating a blog is somehow an expenditure that I have to call the city and report on, I mean, that's... You can tell he didn't consult.
Yeah.
I just wonder if who he consulted to file this, because I think your average law clerk could have looked at this and say, yeah, you don't have the goods here.
Yeah.
So whatever. I mean, you know what? I'm although I'm annoyed at stuff like this, and like I said, I'm surprised it hasn't happened before.
Yeah.
It's the fact that we're able to talk about it and expose it and let other people know that they shouldn't feel intimidated by somebody. I can remember speaking, in front of the council years and years ago when I was more intimidated than I would today. I wouldn't bat an eye, but it's intimidating when you first get into it, and they like to intimidate.
They do.
They like you to make you feel small, and they're so smart and you're so dumb. They're picking on the wrong two people. I guess that's just
the whole reason we exist is because that council did what they did to us.
Yeah, I mean, they dismissed us. They never took us seriously. They didn't think we could beat them and organize and get rid of their cabal. And when we did it, I mean, there was a lot of shock and awe that happened there. And so, the arena of ideas is where I'll be for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And it's just, like I said, Paul. Sorry, Johnny, but I'll see you on the battlefield again.
Yeah. Yeah. We will not be intimidated. We will not allow you to strip us of our rights. We know what they are. We've been in this for far too long. And let me just say, seeing as this is kind of our Thanksgiving edition of the show, Thanksgiving being tomorrow from when we're recording this, I want to thank the judge for taking a look at it and applying the law as it was written. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. It is good to see that.
Yes.
So, yes, I would thank the judge as well.
Yeah.
Happy Thanksgiving, too, Jay. I don't think I said that.
Happy Thanksgiving.
So, did you pardon your turkey already? Did the turkey get pardoned?
You mean the turkey that's sitting on the bottom shelf of my fridge? I guess not.
That's paperwork was a little late on that one.
Yes,
you
indeed.
know, I'll tell you, it's. I know you're not a winter guy.
No,
and I like the winter. I wish there was a little snow on the ground because Thanksgiving, Christmas, and my birthday in January are just very fun times of the year for me.
Yeah.
After my birthday, okay, the ice can melt the next day. That's fine. Usually it doesn't for 3 more months.
Yeah.
So I do get sick of winter at some point. But, you know, I'm a 4 seasons person. I kind of like that.
Well, that's good.
We're just missing. It's getting cold. I'll tell you that much. I know they got some snow up north.
Yeah.
I think 6 inches fell in northwestern Minnesota.
Really? I think
when we got like 1,
I
think they got hit with like 4 to 6.
Oh, goodness. Huh.
And up there, that won't leave until March. So I think it's on the ground for good.
Yeah.
Not sure if the lakes are frozen. Maybe way up north, but I don't think they are in the north central part.
Okay.
So
Yeah, they're not here yet.
Don't go out there.
So.
Don't go out there.
Yeah.
Don't go out. Don't walk on Mille Lacs. You ain't Jesus. So now, Jay,
Yes.
we've talked a lot about the presidential race and about the anything you wanted to say, by the way, on Johnny B? Or
No, I think that pretty much covers it. That you really don't know what you're doing over there, so I would just be quiet, and you can speak. That's fine, but I wouldn't choose to make a fool out of myself if I,
Fair enough.
Yes.
Anyhow, we've done a lot of talking about the we talked about the results, and we talked, blah, blah, blah. It's the longest presidential race ever.
Yes.
And, excuse me, we've talked about President Trump's victory and what it might mean. But I'll tell you what, he's got one ambitious agenda.
Absolutely.
And I think in my mind, it's beyond his 4 years. I do think he is looking to, and I think everybody assumes J.D. Vance will be his successor, that because some of this stuff I think is short term, some of it I think is long term.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure that I actually think President Trump's done a great job of outlining the stuff he's trying to do and wants to do. I think you can tell by the people he's appointing that he wants strong administrators that will shake up the government, not necessarily a group of ideologues. I love how the media is, I'm going to digress for just a second. Trump's appointing loyalists. I can't remember what network. It had to be CNN. And they put up a picture of the Trump loyalists.
Yeah.
2 of them were Tulsi Gabbart and Bobby Kennedy.
Okay.
Now, as of 6 months ago, Bobby Kennedy was running against Donald Trump, right?
Yeah.
Tulsi Gabbart ran against Trump in 2020.
Yeah.
Endorsed Bernie Sanders in 2016. But they're Trump loyalists now.
Yes.
They've converted to the dark side.
I don't know if you've ever heard Tulsi explain why she supported Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, it was an anti-Hillary, an anti-establishment,
yes,
anti-the process.
Yeah.
She explained it to Tucker Carlson very, very well.
Yeah.
In a long, long interview about it. But, of course, they've gone to the dark side. Now, okay, Kristi Noem, maybe I'll give you her. But no better administrator in my book, no better state run better than South Dakota, as far as efficiency, low taxes, blah, blah, blah. So I'd welcome her in any administration. But yeah, the Trump loyalists include 2 people who tried to run against him, which is very interesting over there at CNN. But anyhow, the ambitious agenda, everybody knows about the border. Everybody knows about his desire for, by the way, I'm going to digress one more time.
Yeah.
This 60-day ceasefire between Israel, Hamas, and all that.
Yeah.
What do you make of that, Jay?
It's curious.
Who brokered this? I mean, Biden's asleep.
Right.
Kamala's in Hawaii.
Or to quote the president, Joe Biden doesn't even know he's alive.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we all know Biden's not calling the shots here, but what's behind that, do you think?
I mean, I suppose Blinken is the face of it, but
Blinken, Jake Sullivan, one of the advisors up there, possibly.
Yeah.
Is this just, okay, no more bloodshed on my watch? Is that what that is?
I don't foresee Israel going along with that, though, because they're interested in a long-term solution that is going to keep Israel and the Jews safe in their homeland.
Well, I'm going to quote Dr. Phil.
Yes.
Peace at any price is no peace at all. So if you're Israel, to me, there's 3 things that a peace agreement long-term has to include. The hostages have to be released. That's number 1.
Yeah.
Number 2, Israel, their sovereignty, security, that's got to be on the unquestioned.
Yeah.
And 3, you got to get Iran and these other state sponsors out of there.
Yeah.
Now, Russia, China, there are countries that can put a lot of pressure on Iran. Iran laughs at Biden. They don't take him seriously. So there's, what is really behind, though, the ceasefire? Is Israel reloading? Are they going to use this 60 days, hoping Trump can come in or something like that and broker a real deal? Because it's the timing's weird, and if I'm Israel, ceasefire is to Hamas and Hezbollah's advantage.
Yeah.
If no talks move forward. So is this going to last 60 days? I don't trust,
Yeah, I don't know either. I guess, okay, so it's 60 days. It'll lead up till, Trump being
end of January
put in office. Because we're
is it about
that.
Trump, though? I mean,
no, because we have seen in every other instance where Biden has tried to do something that is supposed to make it harder on Trump to do his job. We saw that with the medium and long range missiles in Ukraine issue. We've seen that with down on the border.
We've seen it with judges getting appointed.
Yeah, judges getting appointed down on the border where they're saying you don't have to appear before a judge. You can just check in on your app. Crazy stuff to get people in. And it's... So I don't trust that they are trying to do something to help Trump. So either there is a bomb in the middle of this that's going to make a huge mess after he takes office, or Biden's trying to secure some kind of legacy, something that he can be remembered for.
I hope that's the case. But again, Biden's had almost 14 months now to do that. He hasn't done squat. He's done nothing. He's taken both sides. I mean, Harris, I would argue, is worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. It just one of the things we're talking about Trump's agenda here. But if he's neck deep in 2 wars, his domestic agenda's in trouble.
Yeah.
Not because he can't do 2 things at once, but just because You can't. Look, you can only do so many. How do I explain this? Preventing World War III, it has to be the number one priority here.
Yes.
Okay.
That really is the number one priority.
So if that can't get accomplished for a year or 6 months or whatever, that's going to delay everything else he's trying to do.
Right.
So it's, it's critical. I don't know. When I've just been surprised every day at what I'm hearing. And again, no analysis from the media. Yeah. Where is the media? They don't even explain what was agreed to.
I know.
They don't care.
I know.
All right. So, in depth on what the president has been proposing, one of the things too I got to say is people accuse President Trump of speaking in generalities, and anybody to go to his website and read Agenda 47 and tell me where he speaks in generalities. He's pretty damn clear.
Yes, he is.
The videos are pretty good. They're pretty to the point. He doesn't mince any words, typical Trump style.
Right.
Doesn't mince any words. But there's a lot of things in there and a lot of I don't want to call them secondary issues. Look, he won the election because of the economy and the border.
Right.
Overwhelmingly, and that's true. But there's a lot of other issues that he wants to tackle in his second term. Some he tried to tackle in his first term.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be much better. I think he's learned a lot, and I think it's going to go much, much better and smoother this time around.
I hope so.
Well, the only thing standing in front of him, I hate to say it, is Republicans.
Right. The only thing standing in front of him are Mitch McConnell, Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins, and we'll see where that new Utah senator lands.
And I'd like to point out they can thank Mr. Trump for their majority, and that's what really makes me angry.
Yeah.
Is without Trump on the ballot, I don't know where the Republicans would stand right there.
Yeah.
I mean, the West Virginia seat would have gone, but you look at Tim Shealy in Montana winning by 8 points, which is a solid win, in a state Trump won by 21. If that election happened 2 years ago, I don't know who would have won that.
Right.
Certainly Pennsylvania wouldn't have flipped, and I don't know that Ohio would have been tough too. Sherrod Brown's a longtime incumbent, and it would have been a tough race. He got no money. I mean, you talk about we talk about it on like the Kerry Lake side, but they abandoned Sherrod Brown months ago on the DFL side or Democratic side.
Yeah,
Chuck Schumer made a lot of bad calls on that side too. So I mean, I don't know that those 3 seats go
right.
And then you got Vance breaking a tie. So I mean, you really have a much more solid majority than we would have under any other circumstances. So, for the Senate majority, that owes the majority to Trump, it's I get the feeling. I want to say something publicly here.
Yeah,
I'm willing to sacrifice a Republican or two. Because I think the Republicans in 26 and 28 will pick up other seats, namely Georgia, maybe Arizona, Nevada, a few other places.
Yeah.
I'm okay if Susan Collins gets beat. I'm okay if she gets primaried.
Yeah.
And we lose that seat. I'm all right about it because I am tired of kissing her ass every single time we have a majority.
But it's not just her. Lisa Murkowski was supposed to be taken out. She was beat by a Republican, went third party, and because of ranked choice voting, ended up staying in the Senate.
Yeah, that almost happened in the House seat there.
Yeah.
This time, the Republican eked out a win in a state Trump won by 20.
And they voted to keep it by 664 votes. I don't understand. Why would you... Well, I don't know to what degree there might be shenanigans up in Alaska and everything's so spread out.
Hard to know. Hard to know in a place like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is because... But anyhow, So whether this, I guess my point is, and I'll tell you, Mike Johnson's got a job to do in the House, and Emmer, and I don't know who the majority leader is, but they got a job to do there to get this stuff through. You know, the Democrats win, they pass everything they want. They don't even hesitate.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, they don't care if they lose the next election, they lose the next election. You know, they know Republicans aren't going to repeal most of what they do. That's what Republicans do. They complain about Social Security, complain about Medicare, complain about Obamacare, and then Republicans eventually just kind of accept them.
Right.
So, okay. And the Democrats know that's going to happen. So, if you know, and I've got to believe that the conversations about this have started. I don't know how much of it has been with Trump personally. I know Vance has personally talked to a lot of, you know, of course, he's still in the Senate technically right now,
right?
You know, until January. So you got to believe that those conversations have gone, but I'm already nervous with the Matt Gaetz stuff. I mean, and I know there's a bone to pick with Gaetz, you know, because he ran down Speaker McCarthy, and I know that there's, you know.
But they're trying the same thing with RFK, with Hegseth.
What's wrong with Hegseth?
I don't know.
You're going to tell me a guy who served in Iraq and Afghanistan can't run the department he served in?
Yeah.
He's a smart guy.
Yeah. I mean, shouldn't we be acknowledging his service? I mean, that's what we heard about Walz when he lied about the rank he held. We're just supposed to respect him because he served.
We're not supposed to challenge why he's been to China 30 times or 12 times or 15. How many times have you flown outside the country, Jay? A couple?
Twice, yeah.
Yeah, okay. It's not 10 one day and 2 the next.
Nope. I've driven a handful of times into Canada.
Were they financed? You know who paid for it? You.
Flew twice,
okay.
yeah. I did, yes.
Yes. If you were in Tiananmen Square, I don't think you'd forget that.
Right.
You knucklehead.
I know.
So, I mean, there's no... Anyway, I want to talk a little bit about some of the highlights of what he wants to do here, and maybe some ideas on how he can do it.
Yeah.
And maybe a handful or two ideas I have.
Okay.
So, do you want to just go back and forth, Jay? You want to go first?
Well, whatever.
It doesn't matter. I don't care.
You know, we already brought up point one of his plan is to seal the border and stop the migrant invasion, and that we kind of brought that up in the opening. That you know, Mexico, the president of Mexico, wasn't. She was talking tough until it actually came down to brass tacks, and she's already agreeing to turn people back and not let them through Mexico.
Surprise.
Yeah, you know, and down in Texas, they're already setting aside in what used to be pretty blue areas, saying, yes, please come finish the wall. They're giving him land to do that down there on the border. So, I mean, he's going to shut the border back down. He's going to start deporting people, and a lot of it, there will be some of it, I think, that is self-deportation from people that don't want to be
arrested.
Right. You know, with all of that, I think that there will be others that they will have to go through that process. Who is the president that has deported the most people?
Wow. I don't know the answer to that.
Really?
No.
Let me get my number straight. I want to make sure that I have the number accurate, but you're going to be surprised. Let's see, how many people? You don't have any guesses.
Well, I mean, how far back are we going here?
Ever. I mean, obviously in Thomas Jefferson's day, illegal immigration wasn't a big deal.
Well, there was Indian removal, but maybe they weren't considered citizens.
We're talking illegal immigration.
Well, considering Trump's only served one term, I'm guessing it's not him.
No, in fact, he didn't deport a whole lot.
Yeah, it was more keeping them from coming in. Is this going to surprise me?
Yes.
I'll say Clinton.
Yes. Yes. Bill Clinton.
Well, see, Democrats believed in a border then, though.
Right.
Chuck Schumer gave speeches on it. Clinton mentioned it in the State of the Union.
Yes. 11 million is what he deported.
Huh.
And that's kind of what we're talking about now.
Huh. Wow.
11 million people he deported.
And funny, I don't remember any stories at the time about the families uprooted from their community. I don't remember that being reported. Do you?
No, it was not.
Oh.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that honestly, I think some of this will take care of itself. I think the big thing here's the challenge on immigration, I think, for the Trump administration.
Yeah.
Because you have to stop the invasion before you can deal with really what's gone on around here.
Right.
Okay, it's stop the invasion. It's get rid of the illegal aliens who are criminals. Then what? I think the do you give people a chance to earn citizenship who came here illegally? Do you give them a time period and then you have to be deported? Do you send them back first? And then, I mean, because to me, I think it's going to take a while to run down these criminals. There are something like 500,000 that already have deportation orders that we don't know where they are. So there's going to have to be, it's going to take a little time to round up the criminals and get rid of them.
Now, how do you feel about how they propose to do that? Now, Trump and his administration have discussed possibly even sending the military in to help grab those. Now, Rand Paul is not a fan of that, and I don't blame him. Sending the military into our cities really isn't.
That's not
good
something
thing.
I love.
Yeah.
To me, the military belongs on the border.
Right.
I think that's a bluff.
Yeah, it probably
I think it's kind of a signal. Okay, mayors, you don't want to play ball here? Tell you what, we'll send special ops force in the city. See how you like that? I mean, I think it's a carrot and stick.
Yeah.
To get cooperation. I think that I can't imagine that happening only in
right.
But see, to me, it's law enforcement. This is a law enforcement thing.
Right.
It's a military thing on the border because we're being invaded, but it's a law enforcement thing throughout the country.
Yeah.
So I think it might be a bluff. I think it might be a signal. Look, I'm dead serious about this.
Yeah.
And you better start cooperating. Oh, okay. You come to the table now. All right. I wasn't going to send in the military.
I suppose you threaten them that way, and if they don't respond, first you start turning the financial screws. You know, you've got like California as a state.
Requires Congress to act as well. You know, which is again where I don't trust.
Right.
I mean, Trump can do some stuff executively, but not everything. He doesn't control all those purse strings.
Right.
So, I mean, you can do that.
Yeah. So we'll see, I guess. But when you have, I know there's rumblings in Minnesota about not helping ICE, but then you have like the mayor of Denver who's like, I'll go to jail. I don't care. I'm not going to help ICE.
He's full of crap.
He will fold faster than Jacob Fry.
He's trying to get on a national stage and be Mr. Tough Guy.
I know.
And nobody believes him.
But it's him. It's Brandon Johnson in Chicago. It's, you know, it's.
Oh, look at J.B. Pritzker's another one.
J.B. Pritzker. Yeah.
You know
Go
what?
Eat a ham sandwich.
You know what they ought to do? They ought to look at the percentage of the vote that Trump got in Illinois and go, holy crap.
Yes.
I mean, Illinois is closer to being a red state than Ohio is to being a blue state.
Chicago's the only thing that stands in their way.
And Chicago moved the ball quite a bit. You go down to Cook County and whatever county is the western suburbs, Oak Park, and the ball was moved a lot.
Yes.
They were bragging about the lines to vote in Chicago. Well, the lines weren't all there to vote Democratic.
Yeah.
I think that might have missed the boat a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
Well, with the number of Hispanics and black, especially black men that came Trump's way, if the Republicans can not trip over themselves and actually explain to them why it's better for them to have freedom and to have a hand up.
yeah, it's where the Republicans in Illinois have to pick up the ball now.
Yeah.
Trump can't do it. He can't
No.
go state to state and do all that.
I mean,
crap.
his policies, I think, will go a long way to show that freedom works.
They will, but you're going to need candidates in that legislature. You're going to need mayors. You're going
I
to
know.
need statewide candidates who can do that. And it's been a while in Illinois since they've had that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's been since Pat Fitzgerald before when he had Obama's seat. I
Yeah.
mean, it's been 20 years now. So I think since they've really had, though I got to say, boy, I really like that Blagojevich guy. If you want a great interview,
He's funny.
put him with Tucker.
Yeah.
First off, the guy's hairline. I mean,
Oh,
man, gee, it's incredible.
yeah.
But put him,
Yeah.
put him out there. He's a pretty interesting character.
He is an
And
interesting
you'll see what
character.
happened to him when he wandered off that Democratic reservation.
Oh.
They went after him like you wouldn't
Yes,
believe.
indeed.
As soon as he got a little independent and didn't take marching orders, boy, look at what happened. But yeah, I think the military thing's probably a bluff.
Yeah.
I think it's just intended to be
He's a negotiator.
yeah, it's just,
Yeah.
and we got to understand. I mean, people like Tom Homan,
Yes.
Stephen Miller, they're going to be the main policymakers,
Yeah.
I think. And I think Kristi Noem is there to clean up those departments. We
Yeah.
saw how bad FEMA was. ICE, that'll be under her direction too.
Yeah.
She's there to get that department straightened out. And, you're not going to leak crap to the press. You're not going to not do this job.
Yeah.
She's there to do that, not make policy.
Yeah.
But to get that department to run better, more efficiently. And I think those things will
Yeah.
combine to make this pretty good. But Trump does at some point, and this may be a year or two down the road, they're going to have to figure out what to do with the people already here.
Right.
They're going to have to figure something out, whether that's earning citizenship or whatever. Something has to be laid out like that. And
Exactly.
JD's already hinted at that. Hell, he might be president before we deport all the criminals.
Who knows? But, as much as I say Trump's a negotiator, who's not is Tom Homan, and he is going to be on point on the border. And Trump has pretty much said to the cartels that, and he does explain that in Agenda 47.
He has a video
wants
on
to,
it,
He
too.
wants to treat them like he treated ISIS.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what they are.
Yeah.
They're almost worse because they're invading a country in a much, much different way.
Well, and Trump has brought this up too, the levels of child trafficking for slavery, for sex, for other means. It's for drugs. He wants to put an end to all of that, where none of these politicians have been serious about ending the child trafficking. And we've spoken about that on the show before.
It's disgusting.
It continue, and I'm speaking to both parties here.
Yeah.
When you know that
Republicans are
it's
just as
going
guilty,
on
yeah.
and you do nothing to fight to make sure that's ended as soon as possible.
Yeah, it's just sick.
Yes.
All right,
Finally, somebody cares.
I'm going to skip around, Jay.
Okay.
Because this is something I like, and I think there's a lot of ways we can do this. Make America the dominant energy producer in the world.
Ooh.
Now, there's a couple things I have a feeling that Stephen Miller or Pam Bondi or somebody has already written the executive orders that will be signed January 20th at about like 1:30.
Yeah.
I already think that there's a handful. I'm sure the legal team, Bondi or whoever, has to look it over.
Yeah.
But there's some executive actions that have to happen with that first.
Right.
The ban on fracking on government property, gone. There's no question. Biden put that in. That's gone. I think the oil leases on public land is also gone. I think Trump's going to reverse both of those things immediately. And I think it may take a little time, but I think that's those two things are going to be gone on day one.
Yeah.
Energy producing is very interesting how the president phrases that.
Yeah.
The largest energy producer in the world. To me, I think he has to expand. We need to reopen some of our refineries and maybe even build new ones. I think that's something that has to be on the table. You look at China, and they've been building a refinery a week.
Yeah.
And we don't have the capacity to, we need coal. We need all that stuff still.
Yeah.
There's no way you're going to replace that with this silly green crap. But I think the capacity to do it also has to get bigger. So I think Trump needs to think beyond just fracking and oil here when we talk about energy. We're going to be on coal for a long, long time still.
Yeah.
But that's not going away. And mining for copper, it's not only good jobs, a lot of the blue-collar people that supported him, but the increase, the abundance of energy is one of the things that's going to bring the price down. I think he's got, he's got to bring those gas is still the average, a little less here in Minnesota. I think the average nationwide is still like $3.35 a gallon.
Goodness.
It was $1.79 when he left office.
Yeah.
And I don't know that it gets down to that again.
Right.
But energy prices are built in to everything. They are built in to every good that you buy in a store, to every delivery that comes to your house.
Yes.
Energy costs and prices. I mean, he has got to bring that down. But I think we got to think beyond just oil here. And I'm not necessarily talking about Green New Deal stuff, although I'm fine with that competing in the marketplace. But I think he's got to go. I think coal, mining for copper, I think those things got to be a part of all that too. You got to address the grids. I think it's ripe for a terrorist attack. Way easy. I can knock out a grid in New York City. You could starve people,
right?
Because they won't have any food.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the biggest things is to be the biggest. We have the capacity to do it. We should be doing it. We've self-restricted us. And he's got to unleash that.
Yes.
So I think he will. I also think, again, he can do a lot of it himself, but I think Congress needs to get in the act here a little bit, especially with the demands on car makers, which I know President Trump has kind of as a separate thing in here because I'm kind of throwing the EV mandates and stuff in with that.
Yeah.
But there's got to be we got to let capitalism do this.
Right.
I think that's very big. That it's not government subsidies, not my tax dollars.
Yeah. Well, he mentioned he wants to get rid of the EV mandate and the subsidies that go to those companies.
True. The subsidies are going to go through Congress. I mean, the mandates, he may be able to do something about those.
Yeah.
But again, I think...
well, that all comes through like the EPA and stuff.
True.
He can't do anything, I don't think, about like California saying we want this. But
no, but federally he can, and you can put a lot of pressure on California. I mean, and I think Lee Zeldin is a good pick for that department. I mean, I think he's kind of a cowboy himself.
Yeah.
And kind of a no-nonsense guy. I think he'll be really good as the head of that. So... Hint, hint, John Thune and Company. Let's get them confirmed very quick.
Yes. All right. I'm going to bring up keeping the U.S. dollar as the world reserve currency. It's got to happen. I mean, we can't allow the BRICS nations to gain a head of steam and begin to have other countries buying into the making the yuan the reserve currency or some new thing coming that's been come up bricks. President Trump has talked about never having a digital currency that is owned by our
the banker cartel.
A central bank, coming up with that. Instead he's looking at ways to tie the currency to Bitcoin, which is really interesting. I mean, Bitcoin's at an all-time high, and it's really there's been some dips here and there.
People are selling to take profits, probably.
Only ever gone up, which is crazy. We used to have a gold standard. We got rid of that with Nixon, and a huge mistake, I think, to take on fractional reserve banking as the law of the land. We've seen what it's done with all of the
Nixon was the last one. President FDR was the one who really got us off that in the 30s. But
right.
Nixon took the last step, which is ending it completely. Yeah, I think it was a mistake too.
Huge mistake.
Yeah.
But tying it to something that has value, a lot of these cryptocurrencies aren't tied to anything, but apparently there's only so many Bitcoins that will ever be mined. I don't understand the whole process, but there is some value that is attached to that. So backing a currency with something is a good idea.
Yeah, and again, so much of it has to do with the weak dollar. I mean, if you look at gold and silver prices, I mean, I first started buying silver, it was $14.61 an ounce. Yeah. It's like $32 now. Gold's gone from like $1,200 an ounce, like at the beginning of like Trump's first term. Yeah. It's like $2,300 now.
Yeah,
it's an alternative to the dollar, and I think that's Bitcoin and crypto is the same thing.
Right.
It's the weaker dollar. Our bonds owned by foreign banks and foreign countries makes the dollar weak.
Yeah.
And until we stop printing it, and until we do something about our trade deficits and about which we made progress under Trump in his first term, but we went backward under Biden, and now we're kind of where Trump was in 2017 now with some of this stuff. He's got to reverse it. So I think you're going to see, I still think that Bitcoin, because it has a finite amount, I think the price will remain high, at least in the short term, on that. Crypto, who knows? I mean, I don't know. I think that's going to fluctuate a lot more. Gold and silver, I still think are good investments over time.
Right.
But yeah, it's the digital currency is a very scary thing.
Yes.
That the dollar will be replaced, that all your spending will be tracked. He's absolutely right. The Constitution will go out the window if everything can be tracked. Everything's already tracked to a degree.
Right.
But if there's no cash, if everything is done on an app or on some sort of electronic transfer, that you can't hide anything that you're doing. And it's none of government's business where you grocery shop or what you buy, or whether you want to gamble with your extra money every month or spend it on clothes or whatever. That's just not up to government. So I think that's a huge thing. I'm gonna bring up one that I agree with it in the short term.
Yeah,
but I still feel something has to be done in the long term. I know President Trump has vowed to protect Social Security and Medicare.
Yes.
And try not to change the retirement age, which we've changed several times. Back in the 80s, we changed it with the 83 Commission. I think it's important with the baby boomers in the short run. I still think in the long term, you've got to address the drivers of the federal budget.
Yeah.
And that really is not foreign aid. It's really not. It's important. I mean, it's important that we don't give all this money away to other countries with no accountability.
Yeah.
But ultimately, Social Security and Medicare, they can't go on indefinitely in their present form.
Right.
Now, I know when the baby boomers die out in the next 25 years, they'll all be gone. No offense. if you're a baby boomer, but your odds of living to be 100 are not great. It's just a fact.
Yeah.
And maybe that won't have, because we got so many people over 65 now, that percentage will drop. But there are a lot of little things that can be done, I think, with Social Security and Medicare that I think can have a big, big impact. So I think that, I understand why he wants to protect that stuff. I get it. I still think that that's something that can't indefinitely sit there with no change.
Right.
So.
True. Okay. How about this one? Securing our elections, including same-day voting, voter identification,
Totally going to go to that
paper
one
ballots,
next.
and proof of citizenship. Sorry, but
here's my question for that, though.
Yeah.
We have a very decentralized. You and I've talked about this many times. Decentralized election voting system here. One state requires photo ID, another one doesn't. One state requires same-day voter registration, the next one doesn't. One state has early voting, the next state has some. 3 states still have none. One state has all mail-in balloting, like Oregon or Nevada.
Yeah.
Some states don't. Well, I agree with President Trump's goals.
Yes.
Is this something that, like, the National Governors Association has to take on, or the secretaries of state? Because to me, the way to fix this, because you're limited in the federal government what you can do about some of these elections. Trump's not wrong in anything that he said here.
No.
But who is going to implement that? Is this a call for states to be like Florida?
I mean,
states don't even count the votes the same.
I don't know exactly how you do this constitutionally, and I have some reservations about this one as well. As much as it pains me to say it, I would like for him to just be able to snap his fingers and all of our voting problems go away. However, I know better, right? And there are things that I think that you can probably create some rules around federal elections from Washington, but I don't think that constitutionally you can say, okay, Wisconsin, you have to do it this way. Okay, Minnesota, you have to do it this way when it comes to our state and local elections. So what does that mean? Is that going to break things apart so that you've got to do 2 separate elections? Is that going to, because some of these states are not going to give up, when especially the ones run by Democrats, are not going to give up their advantages that they've been able to secure. Not until we do better than them at what they do. We've talked about that before as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. I mean, I think it's really something that I think it's something that Republicans really need to make voter integrity an issue in these governor's races.
I think so too, because
I think they haven't done that effectively. They got to stop the focus on voter ID too. That's important.
Yeah.
But I think what actually gets abused, I've been an election judge.
Yeah.
What gets abused more to me is the same day registration, the vouching.
Yeah.
The things like that, I think, get abused. A part of it is not having photo ID. I mean, how do you even verify somebody's 18?
Right.
I think that's a part of it, but I think Republicans have not done a very good job explaining, how ballots are stored and counted. 2020, Georgia at midnight decides, we're going to go home for a while.
Right.
And we'll get back at 10 a.m. and keep counting votes.
Right.
Well, there's a chain of custody issue.
Yeah.
Where are the votes while you're going home to pull the goalie. I don't know what you're doing. How do you not be prepared to count votes on election? What the hell's going on in Arizona?
Right.
I mean, Arizona, everybody there should be embarrassed with how pathetic they are in counting votes. So to me, it's an issue that I think election integrity is an issue that every Republican should be harping on.
Yeah. And to say that the same day registration stuff with no voter ID, or just having somebody vouch for you or whatever.
Insane.
It's insane. You've seen my youngest. To say he's tall is...
Look at Barron Trump. The guy's like 9 feet tall.
my youngest,
big dude.
Big dude. He's 13, and he is 6'2", going on 6'3". I take him voting.
Hope you don't talk back to him too much, Jay.
He's a good kid, but I take him voting with me because I want him to understand it and be excited about it and understand it's important. He goes before we go in. We go to vote and we're talking, and he's like, so they're gonna. He said they're gonna ask him, for his information because they're gonna think that he wants to vote. No, you got a baby face, kid. They're not gonna ask you about that. Every single spot that we got to, the first person to make sure we were in the right
precinct,
the right precinct, the people that made sure that my address and stuff was correct.
Then the next people, next give you your ballot.
Yeah, the people, and then even at the end, buddy asked him, "Are you voting?" Nope, he's 13. Nope, he's 13. If I was not an integrity-filled person, I could have got away with it.
Boy, lucky he didn't go there with me.
Whatever. But I mean, this is what I'm talking about. I mean, it is too easy to get away with it for someone that has nefarious purposes.
Well, I've told the story of the first time I ever testified in the Minnesota legislature. What I witnessed was a man out front offering people to vouch for anybody who'd vote for Al Franken. I found out later he was a DFL canvassing guy or something, or whatever you call him, field guy.
Yeah.
I didn't know that day, but that's what was going on where I was an election judge, 2008 election day. So I've seen it myself as well. And the same day registration, I mean, what if somebody registers to votes, then you send them their ID thing and it gets sent back.
Yeah.
Well, you don't know who he voted for.
Right?
The person shouldn't have casted a vote.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but anybody that they should at least be provisional, where you have to go and do research on these people at the very least, and at the very most, they should cut off registration a few days before the election so that everybody is verified.
Well, they do and they don't here in Minnesota,
right?
Because if you want to pre-register, there is a date you have to do it by.
Right.
It was like October 25th. It was like 10 days or 15 days.
Right. Which is fine, but
they were able to verify that.
Right.
Like when I moved years ago and I changed my address, I did it earlier because I voted in a primary.
Yeah.
But about 10 days later, they sent me my voter thing with my current address. They did their. So this is the problem. We do it after the fact. We need to do it before the fact.
Yeah. And I'm going through some numbers.
Why is that so hard of a concept? I just don't get it.
I know. And I'm not saying that all same day. In fact, I know there are a number of same day registrations that are totally legit. People move. They don't update their address. I did it once too. And I know that happens. Although with the new motor voter law, where somebody goes to update their driver's license, it should automatically have them registered in their new area. So some of that stuff cuts down quite a bit, and I think we'll do a podcast in the future here. I'm pulling some numbers together, and I'm finding that in some counties, you have as high as 14% same-day registration. And it's common, 8, 9, 10%. That's a huge number.
I mean, that's crazy. 1 out of 10 voters aren't registered?
On the day of the election.
Right.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely, that is what I'm telling you. I'm telling you, the I think the smallest number I have is slightly over 8%, and I'm only
So
down
you're telling
to
me out in Roseau County, they're 10% of the people.
I haven't got
registered?
to Roseau County yet. That's further down
I'm
the
just
list.
being Lake
But
of the Woods.
I've got through like Dakota County, and yeah, that was 8 point something. I don't remember who was 14. There was a bunch of them that are like 9, and yeah, it's a big problem.
And just think, I mean, you're talking about a couple 100,000 voters statewide, easily enough to sway an election.
Absolutely, it is.
I'll tell you what, he has a big goal here, and I got a lot of ideas on how to make this work. But again, the federal government can only do so much about this.
Yeah.
But it's rebuild our cities, our
Yes.
big cities, making them safe again, clean again. Man, I'll tell you what, we talked about Trump making some gains in the big cities.
Yeah.
And he outright won some of the smaller big cities.
Yes.
I mean, Phoenix probably being the biggest. Maricopa County won Miami-Dade.
Yeah.
He won Tarrant County in Texas, where Fort Worth is. He won the county that has Kansas City in it.
Yeah.
I think he got like 45% of the vote in like Allegheny County,
Okay.
where Pittsburgh is.
Yeah.
He made a lot. You've got New York, Chicago, Houston, and L.A., and like the rest of the country is like R plus 15.
Right.
You know, but I think he's made gains in some of those areas. But again, the federal government has something to do with that, but ultimately, state and local are going to have to clean those big cities up.
Yes, ultimately that's true. Now, there are a number of factors I think that weigh into that. One, getting rid of the illegal immigrants, the ones that are causing the problem, finding the people that the Biden administration let in here that have a criminal history. By removing those from the United States alone, that is going to help with a large number of these crimes. Now, you can't listen to your DAs and your county attorneys and your attorney generals from some of these states that are saying, oh, crime is down, crime is down, crime is down. They're not prosecuting crimes. And so they don't get added to the list because they won't prosecute them. So you can't listen to that as a reason for, oh, things are better. Things are not good. You talk to anybody in these big cities and they'll tell you things are not good.
Yeah.
So one thing that they can do is take all of these convicted criminals that are not supposed to be here and get them back where they belong. The second thing is by creating jobs and more opportunity, you are going to have a society that lifts itself up out of that. I
think it goes along with the border too.
Yeah,
because the drug use, the human trafficking.
Yep,
I
cut down on the available drugs and all that. Yes.
Yeah, people are going to have to get a real job.
Yeah.
I'll tell you another thing too, and this is maybe something that for Elon and Vivek, because this is one of the areas I think of government that needs to be reduced, and it's under HUD, and it's these slums and these public housing tenements. They've just backfired totally.
Yeah.
It's just been having the federal government try to come in and subsidize housing in a bad neighborhood makes that bad neighborhood worse.
Yeah.
It's got to be an area that has to go. You want housing subsidies, you let the state deal with that.
Right.
The federal government can't run around everywhere and do that. And I think that's it. I think that will actually help. I think that will actually stop trapping people in those places too. I think people feel trapped when they're there because how do you get out?
Right. You
how
make
do you
too
get out
much
if
money
you're
and you lose your
right,
benefits,
or you buy a car and it gets broken into, or your kid's not in a safe school. I mean, how do you get out of that? That's really hard. And so I think it's something. I think he's got to decentralize that, but I think law enforcement is the number one way to, and that's not just federal; it's local too. And I think some of these police departments are hamstrung by this. But I'm also aiming that not so much at the LAs and the New Yorks of the world, but these other big cities where I think are I think it's more likely to see change than not.
Right.
But that's... Oh, pardon me. Why am I yawning? But yeah, I think that's big. I think it's big that the big cities, and that's opportunity for Republicans. I mean, if Trump can make progress there and show people that, you're opening the eyes to people who never voted Republican in their lives.
Right. Deport pro-Hamas radicals and make our college campuses safe and patriotic again.
Well, we can't deport them if they're American citizens.
That's true. And there's enough of those.
Yeah. But
there are a number of agitators that aren't even part of these schools that the schools allow to come in and stir the pot.
Right. And I don't understand why the schools do that. I don't get
because
why
they're run by radicals.
But don't they understand how bad they look?
No, they don't. They think that they have this moral ground to stand on. These are the people that from the 60s, your SDS and your other radical groups that were bombing police stations and everything else. Then they kind of went underground and resurfaced in a lot of our universities and have been teaching radical socialist communist philosophy for the last 50, 60 years.
Yeah, and they're protected by their tenure.
Yep, and they're protected by their tenure. And, they're turning out a whole other generation of kids and taking advantage of them. And really, I think any college that's engaging in this kind of behavior, any university engaging in this kind of behavior, yes, freedom of speech, I get it. But when it turns into this...
You don't have the right to prevent a Jewish student from getting an education they earned.
You yank their funding.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
That's terrible.
Although I would go a step further and say it has nothing to do with anything they say. I think every university should have their federal funding yanked anyways. Right?
Well,
because they use that as an excuse to rake the kids over the coals. Oh, your education now went up 20% this year.
Well,
it's ridiculous.
I think another thing to get change is go after the endowments. I mean, and these legacy people.
And he said that.
Yeah. Trump has said that separately, but
yes,
the people that are really propping up a lot of these schools are the people cutting those big checks. And I think, and of course, getting a tax break to do it, I might add, I believe.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the point, I think that's another thing to do is put some pressure on. They could put some real pressure on these universities.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to one that I think was another little underlying issue. And I love it.
Yeah.
Keep men out of women's sports.
Oh.
Here's my question, though, with President Trump.
Yeah.
Who governs the NCAA? Now, again, these are public schools.
Right.
A lot of them.
Yeah.
So where does the directive for that come from?
Yeah, you take funding away again, I suppose, is a way to do that. He's talked about that.
Does that require Congress to do it?
Yeah, it probably does. Although...
Does that come from the education department that we'd like to eliminate?
And he has said that he's going to.
I got some ideas on that, too.
Well, with the...
We might as well address the whole issue.
Yeah, the whole education issue. I mean, Linda McMahon, I think, is a great pick.
I think she's a terrific pick for
not my joke, but who was it that I saw that said Linda McMahon's going to come put the smack down on education?
Well,
yeah,
I think there's a couple ways that can happen. I mean, number one, I think one of the things I think that you have to expose in the education department is that what are we getting for this federal money? What results can you point to? Because you know what Democrats are going, oh, school lunch cuts, Title I schools, wah, wah, wah. But ultimately, what's happening is you're sending $100 to the federal government for education. They're sending 50 of it back to us with strings attached.
Yeah.
Why don't we just keep the $100
local
at the local level and let the locals figure it out rather than send it, pay a bunch of bureaucrats and all that kind of stuff. If you have, because I think Vivek and Elon, this is one of the first places they're going.
Probably.
Is this department.
Yeah.
And I think it's long overdue for it. But I think Trump needs to sell it to the public as, I don't want to cut education spending.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get the money in the classroom, not in studies, not in trying to pick winners and losers, not in, oh, you only get the money if we do what we want. You know, he's got to sell it like that. That there's it's not just an efficiency thing, but it's also a it's a waste of all of your money that, you know, well, we spend $5 billion on education. Well, how much of that is really spent on education? How much is spent on this study and this guy's pension and this? But I mean, it's a lot of it is spent on garbage.
Yes,
and he's got to expose the garbage. And I actually think that could realistically happen.
Yeah,
I think that department could go because I think that there are enough. I don't know how many Democrats would actually vote for it, but I think there's a lot of hostility toward Washington telling us what to do. And, you know, it's like, okay, well, you know, Democrats don't like it when it comes to immigration. They don't like it when it comes to, you know, but of course, even though the illegal aliens are breaking federal law. Yeah. But I mean, you know, I think he can, if he sells it right, I think this will happen. Again, I worry about Congress.
Right.
I worry about them being all talk, all fizz and no gin.
Yeah.
And that's what I worry about. So he might have a bigger selling job to Congress than to the American people.
It's true. Yes. Okay. Defend our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, and our fundamental freedoms, including freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and the right to keep and bear arms. He was a champion on these things his first term, and he's going to take it even further in his second term. And this is something he does actually have complete, you know, control over as far as, you know, being able to make sure that one thing he proposed, and I don't know if he can do this, but I'm interested in it, is nationwide constitutional carry or nationwide carry, maybe not constitutional. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Where there would be reciprocity between all states. Like right now, if somebody has
conceal
a
and
Minnesota,
carry, is that what you're referring to?
Well, technically it's carry. You have the right to conceal it, but the permit is actually to carry. And you have reciprocity with a certain number of states. There's I forget the number, and it changes here and there a little bit, but like 12 to 15 states where Minnesota's carry permit is valid. And
I see.
A lot of people will get the
so
Minnesota one.
You don't need one in each state that you go to.
Right.
Yeah.
So the Minnesota one, a lot of people will also get the Florida one because that covers a bunch of states that aren't covered by Minnesota. And so by having those two, you have probably the maximum amount of coverage.
I think he could do that in saying he'd probably need Congress to go along with us to set a minimum standard of carry.
Although Second Amendment says that the right to carry shall not be infringed.
Well, but it's the fact I even have to register a gun is an infringement on my rights.
It is.
far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
The government can have whatever guns they want to, and they don't have to register them with me.
Right.
But I have to register with them, even though I have constitutional rights and they don't.
Right.
So it's already backwards.
Yeah.
I mean, but I think he could establish a nationwide. I think Congress would have to vote on this to do that. And if states want to take it further, like a Florida,
Yeah.
they should be allowed to take it further.
Right.
But I think a nationwide one, I think you could have that.
Yeah.
Here's the other thing. Let me ask you a question like this. Do you think, keep talking about no new gun laws.
Yeah.
Do you think Trump needs to repeal some gun laws? Do you think he has to go after things like the Brady Bill
Maybe.
and some other... I can't remember the names of everything, but some other things. Do you think there would be a good idea to repeal some of these laws?
Yes.
I mean, why I need a 7-day waiting period when
Right.
you can do an Insta-check nowadays?
Right. It's like in that Simpsons episode where Homer Simpson goes to buy a gun and he says, well, the guy working at the gun store says that'll be 7 days. And Homer goes, oh, 7 days, but I'm mad now. But that's the whole thing. It's there are a number of laws that I think can be repealed. Now, I mean, theoretically, under a Second Amendment that is practiced as it's written, automatic weapons, should they really be on the naughty list?
Again, my answer is, if we have an armed government and an unarmed citizens, we are slaves.
Yeah.
So
that's the whole reason for the Second Amendment.
Yeah. So if government wants to have any weapon they want to, your right to limit what I can have is pretty darn on thin ice.
Yeah.
And of course, it's all for our safety, Jay. It's all for our safety.
All right.
Can I?
Well, before we move on, though, there are a couple other parts to that. Freedom of speech, which do away with all this censorship stuff, like Johnny B. The government cannot censor people and their free speech, and the freedom of religion. And I know people are, what kind of censorship and thumb is this government having on religion? They have too much freedom. No. We're supposed to have, both in the Minnesota and the U.S. Constitutions, complete freedom over how we worship. And President Trump got rid of the Johnson Amendment the first time. It got re-implemented under Biden. It's gonna go away again, allowing houses of worship to be able to say whatever they need to say in their services, to teach people how to live, what the issues are, so that they know exactly, hey, this person believes in killing babies, and we don't believe that here. Or this person believes that the God they worship can make mistakes, and a woman can be a boy and a boy can be a woman. We don't believe that here. And being able to educate their people on, hey, this is how to vote biblically, is a huge deal.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing that we don't have the freedom to do that. That's what's amazing to me.
And it's going to allow things like teaching the Bible or having prayer back in schools. Those are things he has talked about. We don't mandate it.
Yeah, but we allow
it.
I mean, maybe we leave that to the individual state or school district.
Yeah.
I mean,
or the individual family.
How can you ban the Bible nationwide?
You can't.
I mean, even if it's not from a religious standpoint, there's so many Christian teachings that are just part of world history.
Yeah.
I mean, they just are. When Cortez came to the New World, one of the untold stories was how I think it was the Aztecs, I can't remember who it was exactly, told a story of a great flood of Noah's Ark. They actually knew about it.
Yeah.
Which is not only historically interesting, but also interesting from a Christian standpoint of spreading their worship, their gospel.
I think most cultures do have some sort of
version of that story.
Accounting for that, which would explain where you have this expansion of the population across the world, and having originated in this central place.
Okay, I'm gonna get off the page we're on and go to a couple. I'm just gonna add a couple things quick that I think Trump can do.
Okay.
Some things he's hinted at.
Yeah,
we have got to get rid of these subs. This is something for Elon and Vivek.
Yeah,
got to get rid of this broadband stuff.
Get rid of it?
Yes, because we have the new satellite technology.
Oh, yes.
Which is available everywhere. There
Absolutely.
is no need to subsidize broadband for another minute.
Absolutely.
Satellite technologies, and I remember when they were talking about broadband, I'm like, you know what? Something's going to come along. It's going to be better than this, and they're going to spend all that money, but we're still spending from the infrastructure bill 3 years ago. There is still... by my count, I got two different sources for this. There's $65 billion in federal broadband subsidies out there.
Goodness.
That I think will be something that, Elon's going to point this out for sure. But now that we have the satellite technology, there's no reason to have that broadband stuff.
Yeah.
I think... another thing that I think, and Trump has hinted at this, and I have not heard from his Secretary of Agriculture nominee, but they have got to get rid of the subsidies for the big farms.
Yes.
It's a big, big deal that these Bill Gates type people, that our food is not controlled by a handful of companies or a handful of people. Now Trump has hinted at this before. Robert Kennedy's talked about it. I don't know if some of that falls under HHS. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I know that the FDA stuff does, but it's estimated that 60% of the farm subsidies go to some of the top 10% largest farms with absentee landowners.
Yeah.
That is something that really has to change. And I'll tell you what, it's big in those red states. Helping that small farmer in that red state, those red, that voted for Trump 78. They voted for him 91-8. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
We have got to. The small farmer is the one that should be getting those subsidies. That is land rich and not cash rich, and it should not be going to these people who want to control what we eat.
Right.
And I think that's going to be a big reform and a huge savings for the federal government to not be handing out these. Maybe Bill Gates will sell off these farms and go back to making mediocre software. I don't know. And then another thing I think that should be really cut out is the transit subsidies.
Oh, yes.
These boondoggle projects. Pete Buttigieg has almost run our airports bankrupt.
Yes.
Also, I mean, there needs to be some reform, maybe a little bit of money spent there because the airport infrastructure has to be there. But the transit subsidies, these should be local projects. They should not be federal. My tax dollars should not be, and again, I expect Elon and Vivek to attack things like this.
Yes.
But these are a lot of little places where, because one thing that we really have to do to control inflation is reduce spending. I mean, we've got to do that. Obviously, you can take in more money with the growing economy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you got to get some of these expenses under control. I know President Trump tried in his first term. I know that Congress didn't go with him on some stuff, but I think he's ready to act as independently as he can right now. But I think, and obviously, I mean, the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022, which I think should be repealed.
Yeah.
Because that spends about $100 billion a year on green energy tax breaks and subsidies. And again, my attitude with that is you create a product, you compete it in the private sector. You don't. When Henry Ford wanted to create the assembly line. He didn't run to the state of Michigan to get a tax break to fund it.
Right.
He funded it himself. It was his business. He had to do it. And the same thing should happen for these other industries.
Yep, absolutely.
You want to compete with the other forms of energy? I have no issue with that at all. You want to buy an electric car, Jay? You go ahead, or a hybrid or whatever. That's your money. You make that decision. But it should not be forced on us by government. And I
Correct.
know, but I think you're going to have to look at that Inflation Reduction Act. You're going to probably have to repeal some of that, because those subsidies are going to go out year after year after year until that's repealed.
Oh, absolutely. There's one other thing that I'd really like to touch on, and he has a plan to dismantle the deep state and return power to the American people. And so he laid out these 10 things that he wanted to do to accomplish this. And I think this is vital to the survival of our nation. We cannot continue to have the deep state have tens of thousands of federal employees. We can't do it. So on day one, he wants to reissue 2020 executive order restoring the president's authority to fire rogue bureaucrats. Now, he's going to run into issues with the unions, the government unions, but I'd like to see this play out.
Okay, let me negotiating tactic.
Yeah.
He knows he can't do all of that.
Yeah.
But he can fire some people.
Oh, yeah.
He'll get some of it done. He'll get them to the bargaining table again, negotiating tactic.
Well, again, day one, it's going to be like, okay, you're expected to be in the office 5 days a week. It's already reported a lot of them are going to quit.
Well, and again, I'm okay with remote work.
Yeah.
But we've got to get rid of these government buildings then. We've got to...
Right, but this is a way for him to smoke out a lot of the worthless people, so I'll take it. 2, overhaul federal departments and agencies, firing all of the corrupt actors in our national security and intelligence apparatus. 3, fundamentally reform the FISA courts, ensuring that the corruption is rooted out.
Yeah, can I also want to go back to point 2?
Oh, yeah.
Job of Pete Hegseth.
Yep.
Tulsi Gabbard.
That's
Christy
exactly
Nolan.
why they were...
Why do you think they're so intensely? Because
Yep.
as the administrator, they're there to do that.
Yeah. You'll love this one. Number 4, establish a Truth and Reconciliation Commission to declassify and publish all documents on deep state spying, censorship, and abuses of power.
Has to be done.
Has to be done.
We've had no accountability for our spying, and they're not supposed to have anything to do with American citizens.
We're about to find out what happened to JFK and MLK.
And anybody else that, we've had this lone gunman BS.
Yeah. 5, launch a major crackdown on government leakers who collude with the media to create false narratives, pressing criminal charges when appropriate. 6, make every inspector general's office independent from the departments they oversee so that they do not become protectors of the deep state. Absolutely crucial.
Yeah, and I'll tell you another reform, maybe he'll get to this.
Yeah.
The whole, House and Senate intelligence committees.
Yeah.
There has got to be something out there about conflicts of interest and exposing that. Dianne Feinstein, when she ran the intelligence, her husband was like a contractor. I mean, it was a total conflict.
Yeah.
Feinstein supported everything they did. And but it was never exposed that she had a financial interest in it. If that were Dick Cheney and Halliburton, it would have been all over the place. But
exactly.
So there's a lot of conflicts of interest there that are not known. I know that's RFK, one of his deals in the FDA, will be exposing how many of these FDA officials all of a sudden sit on Kellogg's board of directors. Yes. Sorry.
Yeah. 7, establish an independent auditing system to continually monitor our intelligence agencies to ensure that they are not spying on our citizens or running disinformation campaigns against the American people. There's supposed to be oversight by Congress, but that's not really happening.
No, it never has happened.
So,
it hasn't happened since the 70s.
Yeah. 8, continue Trump administration effort to move parts of the federal bureaucracy outside of the Washington swamp, just like President Trump moved the Bureau of Land Management to Colorado. up to 100,000.
He ought to. You know what he ought to do?
Yeah.
He ought to move it to like western Nebraska, just to ensure that people won't.
Up to 100,000 government positions could be moved out of Washington, it says.
Oh,
Imagine
love
that. Hopefully that many more are cut. But 9, ban federal bureaucrats from taking jobs at the companies they deal with and regulate, such as Big Pharma, which is what you were talking about. 10, push for a constitutional amendment to impose term limits on members of Congress.
yeah.
Yes.
And make it retroactive. I want it to include the people there now,
Yeah.
not future people.
Exactly.
I mean, then 3/4 of Congress has to quit,
Yes.
which is fine with me.
Fine with me, too. You know, if you have a very limited time to be there, you're not going to be trying to benefit from it the way
You're
that
not
they
going to
do
be
now.
trying to make it a career.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this much.
Yeah.
This is a lot of stuff. We scratched the surface, Jay.
I
But
know. We
I'll-
could talk about this another 2 hours.
We could take the deep state stuff, do a podcast on that, because I got a
Yeah.
million other things I'd like to see, because I would like to see President Trump also, this is my last point before I go watch a Lifetime movie. This is, I think Trump needs to pardon some people who've been prosecuted under this.
Yeah.
And say, no, I don't like what they said. I don't like what they did, but they have the freedom to do it. You know, Catherine Herridge is under, the journalist, she's under pressure to reveal a source, or there's something going on against her. There's whistleblowers that have been prosecuted, have their lives ruined. I think that's a step that he's going to have to take at some point. And say, look, we're going to stop these prosecutions of people out here telling the truth.
Right.
They're not putting troops in harm's way. They're not revealing that we're going to invade Normandy next week. They're exposing illegal crap that the government isn't permitted to do.
Right. Right you are. So, yeah. Like you say, I mean, we could go at this another 2 hours, and go deep dive into each one of these, and we still wouldn't get to the bottom of all this. He has been planning this for 4 years.
Yeah, I know. He's just itching. You know what? I bet he has a clock out at Mar-a-Lago of when he takes the oath. They're just counting it down. Like, people are marveling at how fast he's appointing people. He's had 4 years to think about who he's going to appoint.
Absolutely.
So why would it be? You know, we probably talked to some of these people about it a year ago.
Right.
I mean, it'll be an interesting time. Not a good time to be a lobbyist living in Washington, D.C., though.
No.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, I think there is excitement about it. That's the weird thing now.
Yeah.
There's like excitement that, it's really going to happen. Trump's really going to do this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and I think the Dems kind of, I don't know what kind of I'm interested to see if some of them read the tea leaves and get that, some of this, forget Republican, Democrat for a minute. Some of this stuff just should be done.
Yeah.
It just should be. I care about schools.
Uh-huh.
I disagree with what our school system looks like.
Yeah.
But if you really cared about education, why would you want all this money wasted in Washington?
Exactly. People are getting rich off of it.
Right,
That's why.
but not the students.
No.
So, I mean, I don't know. I'll just be interested to see if Dems support anything.
Yeah.
And if Republicans can hold the line. I mean,
Well,
that's
the
probably
big
biggest
question.
worry I've got.
Yeah. That is the big question.
All right. Styling, profiling, jet flying, limousine riding, wheeling, dealing, son of a gun. Jay, I'm not depressed. We beat Johnny B.
Yeah.
Didn't even try. And we got all that good stuff to talk about. So
Yeah.
what do you got for us?
Well, I guess that we're maybe entering into some good times, you know? But it's not without its work. I mean, what we're talking about that's happening here is just at the federal level. I mean, what President Trump and a Republican Senate and House are able to do together to help turn back some of the, hopefully all of, most of the abuses that have been implemented. And I don't think just over the last 4 years. I mean, they're looking back at things 100 years ago. Some of the things like the income tax, which we didn't even talk about, possibly getting rid of the income tax for a 10% flat tax. That goes back to 1913. And I think that is just the brink of what is going to start to improve our lives, where we're going to be able to see, wait, these things are better. The fog is going to lift. The veil is going to come off of our eyes, and we won't be able to deny that we're making more money, that we're better educated, that we're getting better jobs. Our children are getting better jobs, that our destiny looks different than it did, that America's place in the world is assured, and that we're keeping the bad guys at bay. It seems so positive. The potential that's there is amazing. But it can't stop here. It has to come to the state level. The governorships, the state houses, state senates, state assemblies in states that have like a unicameral legislature. It has to come down to the county level. County commissioners, sheriffs, county attorneys, soil and water conservation boards. It has to come down to city councils and their advisory committees. It has to come down to school boards, their advisory committees. We have to see a renewal coming down all the way through, from Washington down to Main Street. And it's important. And I believe that we can do it, but it's not going to be this task where we can just sit back and let it happen. We have to be intentional about it. If we want to see the right policies passed and made law, if we want to have good leaders that actually look out for us here in this nation, we have to stand for what is true, what is right. And the only way to do that is to take what we began doing in 2024 and make sure that we finish the job in 2026, in 2028, in 2030, in every election thereafter, making sure that we have done all that we can to rout out the evil. Because we're always going to have people like John Budashevsky that are going to take pot shots at us and try to get in at the local level. That's why we have to take care of this all the way down. So I know that as we get closer to election season, we talk about this, but I'm going to say it even now. I know it's Thanksgiving, it's Christmas, we don't want to be bothered with this kind of stuff, but let me tell you, the Democrats are already having meetings about what didn't go well and how do we fix that the next time around. We have to be on the same page and operate the same way. Anything that they're allowed to do legally, we have to do better than them. So how do we do that? We raise up. We meet, we join together, we come into unity with each other, and we each do our part. For some of you, that's going to be running for office in 2 years. For some of you, and maybe next year, some places have odd year elections. You got to look into that if your city or your school district do that, or your township. that is one thing that you can do. Start a blog, start a podcast, be a citizen journalist, and let's feed information back and forth as a network of conservative Minnesota media that is going to tell the truth about what's going on in our state and in our cities and our counties and our school districts, so that people know what's going on, because the local papers have been dying out. There's so few of them left, and so many of them trend to the left anyways. So why not put the truth out there so our neighbors know, making it easier to elect the right people, and for less likely that liberals are going to get into these local nonpartisan seats because they didn't really tell you who they are. We've got to stand. We've got to stand tall. If you're a songwriter, if you're a performer, getting out there and doing the things that are going to help change the public's perception of what's going on. The church is standing up and actually talking about issues that matter, rather than hiding behind your 501c3 and not speaking about it. There are things that we all have to do to come together and make sure that when it's all said and done, we've left it all on the table. We can't do this half-heartedly. This is a team effort, Minnesota, and if we're going to show this nation that we're serious and not be the only blue state sitting around us, the time is now. Come to your senses, work hard, and let's do this. Let's push for 2 years and see what's possible. We love you, Minnesota, but now it's your turn to get to work.